Hello and welcome to the Empathy Podcast. This podcast seeks to explore the minds of those who not only understand or experience empathy, but of those who wish to take action, build, and practice empathetic behavior through conscious decision and responsible lifestyle choices. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, this podcast might be just for you. So sit back, relax, and use what you were born with. Empathy.
Killing me, can't believe the fool was killing me. Till I woke up, realized that profit off of our disease. But your demise is on the way, ethereal beings on the rise. You'll hear me today on my ancestors who died. Walk the earth for those who bled, taking back all of our lives. Avenge my people dead in due time, I know that you're feeling scared as we rise up to the sky. Karma's being paid with how we lived and how we died. I know you had an unfair start. To not move an ego is not hard. Time to dissect, pull apart what's holding you back, cause you came so far. I know you had an unfair start. I am beautiful, wise, blissful, divine. I shake it up, I break it up, can't fake my love, no. Come over, love, and stimulate my mind. Stimulate my mind. So it's gonna be really hard, because we're breaking generational cycles our parents could not break. Yeah. I must confess, sometimes people are stuck inside the darkness. I was young, needed your love, all of your acceptance. You wasn't there emotionally, close your eyes. You left us, remember disease, feelings of loss, they slowly crept up.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Empathy Podcast. We have a very, very special guest today and a topic that I have not spoken about here on the podcast. We're going to be talking about music, and we're going to be talking about conscious music, and we're going to be talking about focusing on that as a priority of the topic. So if you love music, definitely comment down below. And if you love conscious music and music that has a purpose and a direction and a mission, then I think that you're going to enjoy this one. And so our special guest goes by the name Lyra Vega. Did I say that correct?
Yeah, Lyra Vega.
Lyra Vega. And so she is a singer, a rapper, a poet, a pianist, and a writer. And so we're very excited to get a chance to speak with her. And she has very unique music, right, that isn't like the mainstream, and we're going to talk a lot about that too. So if you want to waste your story and a little bit about music and like your purpose within the music.
Okay, so I'm originally from West Virginia. I moved to Asheville about 11 years ago. I just had this mission of wanting to help people through healing their traumas. I went through a lot of trauma myself that I am currently healing. And, I was in the mental health field, but then I stepped away because I realized how much indoctrination is happening in our health systems. So I realized that, I needed to pursue my music, and, I wasn't going to be happy until I actually did what I was passionate about in life. And, I'm already bringing a lot of awareness into certain communities. And, I'm just using my gift to bring awareness and shine light on the world about the things that we need to heal in order to elevate and become a higher frequency civilization. Music, my quote is, music has the power to heal. And, years ago, people understood that they were using music for healing. And so it's time to integrate that back, because we are living in a world where people in power are using music. They're weaponizing the music to keep us in a low vibrational state.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. And I was listening recently to music that I grew up listening to. We all grew up listening to certain type of music, right? And maybe, depending on where you're from, it could vary, right? What country you're from, of course, it'll be in a different language, right? From what part of the U.S. you're from, you might have definitely different types of music that's common in different parts of the States, right? And I was listening to the lyrics of like songs that I used to like, right? And when I was a kid, I didn't really listen to the lyrics, to be honest. I don't know, maybe some did. And I know a lot of people memorized songs and would like, recite them and have like remember entire, albums. And that was not me. That was not one of my skills. But I was a drummer, right? I started playing drums. I mean, I am a drummer, I guess, but I don't have them right now. You kind of never lose it, especially drums, right? It's like something you could hurt, right? But I started when I was 13 playing the drums. And so I always listened to the music. I like the guitar and the drums and the rhythm and the beat. And the lyrics was like, that's nice. I like the tune. I like the harmonics, right? And like the up and down or the vibe. But it wasn't until I was older I started listening to the lyrics and thinking deeper about them, right? And like, let's just say a popular example of like a type of music, because I used to listen to like rock music, right? Let's say as an example.
Hey, I did too.
Let's say like Linkin Park, for example. You listen to the lyrics of Linkin Park, right? And it's very sad, very depressing, very suicidal, right? And then you see what end up happening to the lead singer. You know what I mean? As an example, right? And so some people might think, is that related? Is there connections, whatever, right? But you look at other popular, like let's say something that may be super popular in hip hop, let's say as an example, like a Cardi B or something like that, right? And let's say the lyrics and the message that's going to, let's say, the girls or the young boys, right, that are listening to this, and it's causing an influence on them and impacting them, right? And like words can be like a spell and like magic, right? And they can train your brain, right? And indoctrinate you, right, into certain beliefs and mindsets, right? And anyways, can you speak to a little bit about that? And like, what are your thoughts on that and some of the lyrics, and like, what are some of the lyrics that you use? And like, what do you like to speak into existence versus like some of the things that maybe you see?
For sure. So, I went through the same thing as you. I did remember a lot of lyrics, but even listening to them now as an adult and being spiritually aware, I still take in those lyrics a lot different now. I hear them and I'm just like, it's crazy. Like, for example, with the Linkin Park, because I grew up on Linkin Park too. And, a lot of us went through a lot of trauma, especially us who have a higher awareness. I feel like us who have a larger responsibility to bring the world into a higher frequency, I feel like we especially went through even crazier traumatic things. So it was like I really resonated with those lyrics and they got me through a lot of things. But it's not something I could sit and listen to now because I don't resonate there anymore. I think a lot more positively and it is actually creating a different reality for me. So yeah, the lyrics in a lot of the new hip hop, even the older hip hop, it started when I was younger, but it just wasn't as detrimental to the spirit as it is now. Like, we do ultimately have free will, and we do have to decide to not allow those things to affect us. But when you have a young mind, it is affected by listening to those things over and over again. And it has us so focused on wanting all of those material things like clothes, cars, constantly giving out our sacred energy, our sexual energy. And so we feel really disconnected constantly listening to those musics. So I definitely do agree with the fact that like we have been taught spells through the English language. It's spells. So I am very intentional of the things I'm saying. And I feel like if I really want people to elevate through my music, instead of telling them what they should do for healing and elevation, I share my own experience and tell them what I am doing, because it's a lot more influential that way, and it's a lot more impactful. Like, people are seeing the things that I have overcome, and they get inspiration and hope through that. That's powerful. Like, seeing somebody that came from the things that I came from, and that I'm overcoming them and using these traumatic things and turning them into like my power. Like, that's powerful. And that's giving people like hope that they can do the same, for real.
I agree 1000%. And I think that's like what this podcast is for, is, stories like that, and stories like yours, and stories of people that have gone through things, and transmuted that energy into a positive light. And I just appreciate it so much. And music, like, potentially could have some of the biggest impact on anyone there is, because of how much we listen to it and how much times it goes through us. You might listen to a song, like, think of a favorite song that you love, and you may have listened to that, 1,000 times or something like that, right? And that's pretty powerful, because we don't often do something that is that many times over and over and over, right? And I think even like, food and what we eat, right, is in a similar way, because it's a lot of times. It's like, let's say 3 times a day or 2 times a day or 4 times a day, however many times people are eating, right? There's definitely a huge impact there. But then some things that people do, I think that they don't quite see that. It's just so fascinating, the impact that music thinks, the impact that music makes when I think deeper about it, right? And can you share a little bit about what are some of the lyrics that maybe you share, and like some of the messages that you like to speak into people? And I agree as well with the sharing what you're doing, making more of an impact, versus like telling, right? Or just preaching. Some people are like, do this and do this and do that, versus like, let me show you, let me share my experience, you know what I mean? And yeah, anyways, yeah, go from there.
So I think that one of my most powerful lyrics currently is the new song that's about to drop. There's a new single about to drop, and it's also going to have the first music video that I've ever shot. And, it's also taken a lot for me to push through the fear of being seen, for real. And I think one of the most powerful lyrics is, because we have been indoctrinated. Okay, so I believe that one of the most powerful lyrics I have currently is for a new song that I have that's going to be dropping, and it's actually going to be the first music video that I have as well. And it's actually talking about connecting with all of the other people who are coming into a higher awareness, and it's called Align. So it's also speaking on the fact that we've been indoctrinated to believe that, if there's a God, that it's only external. But it's not only external, it's also within us. And once you start tapping into yourself, you realize just how powerful you are, and that you are creating your reality. So the lyric is, You're connected to yourself. Did you know that you're a god? They're making fun of you because you're something that they're not. Gotta be yourself. Don't give into the plot. Being yourself is really what they don't want. Be yourself today. Tap and elevate the human contrast. Explore time to create. Be yourself today. Explore what makes you happy. Time to elevate. And that's just so powerful, because once you realize that you have that consciousness within yourself, that's when you begin like separating yourself from the matrix, because we are, multidimensional beings having a human experience, and you can be within the matrix, but not allow it to control or dictate the things that you do. And so I really want to shine light on that, because that is like one of the most powerful things you can do in this life as a spiritual being inside of a physical vessel, because then you start taking your power back and you start doing things differently. You start healing the generational trauma in your lineage. So it's really powerful. It's one of my most powerful songs I've ever written, for real.
I love that. And I can't wait for the music video. And I'm so excited for it as well. And I'll definitely be sharing. We're going to put down below information as well in this. And I plan to use some of the music. I'm going to use some of the music to share as well, so that people can get a chance to listen as well while they are hearing this podcast, which I think will be really great. And I also have noticed that as I think about music differently, and I listen to what I listen to, that I'm very, very conscious now of what I even add into a playlist, right? Or I add into what I want to share. I don't know how much you've been seeing some of my stories or anything like that, or what I share, but almost all of the music choices I have are very in alignment with what I'm sharing and what I'm speaking about, from the energy to the sounds, sometimes the frequencies, sometimes the lyrics. It's like a very specific lyric that is talking and, re-emphasizing maybe what I'm talking about, re-emphasizing what the post is about. And I don't even think it was like a conscious shift. It wasn't like, that's it. No more bad music, only good music. It was like this gradual, like just being aware, like your awareness comes in, your healing comes in, you feel better, and everything else around you start to be connected to, So like, honestly, I talk about nutrition and health and all these things, you know what I mean? And fitness and meditation, all these sort of things, right? But not so much about music, but it's in a way, the music has been like, kind of like the background, of a lot of the things that I have. And I'm really fascinated with your message of music having the power to heal. And what does that mean to you?
I really, truly do believe that, once you start changing what you're listening to, it does help you to start incorporating better daily habits. Like when you hear other people talking through the music about, eating healthier and nurturing their body, their mind, body, and soul, like that really gave me so much power to be able to implement it myself. I started listening to positive music when I would work out. I started listening to positive music when I would drive, and it's really changing my life. So I know that like my music is doing the same for others, for real.
What do you think about like some of the music that's common, like mainstream? What do you think about the music that is mainstream right now, that's in like the radio, as an example? The radio is what I would be talking about, like the main channels on the radio or whatever. That
for sure,
top of the charts kind of thing, top of the billboards. What do you think about the type of music that they're sharing, and what do you think is like some of the agendas that they have of that type of music?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I actually completely shifted out of listening to mainstream music, for real. Every once in a while, there'll be a song that catches me, but it's usually a more positive sounding song or a song about love. But even when even going back and listening to like the older music I listen to and some of the newer music that has to do with love, I noticed that a lot of people aren't talking about real love. There are a lot of people are talking about like trauma bonds and attachments, because there's a difference between an attachment and a real connection. And I realized that, I had to stop listening to the mainstream stuff, because some of these people who are creating this music, they aren't even aware of their trauma that they're putting in their music. And, we're at various places in our healing. Healing isn't linear. So, I mean, I'm not downing people, because all art is like valid, but specifically for the rap music, they really are targeting to keep us in a low vibrational state, because they only want to put out the music that talks about those things. See, I actually got offered to be signed last year and this year, but I actually turned it down because I was talking with a guy and they were already wanting me to like change my narrative of my music. They were like, you can't put all positive music out. You got to make some bangers and some party music. And I'm like, but I completely quit smoking. I quit drinking. Like, I don't even party anymore. So why would I talk about that? Like, I'm not going to be something I'm not to get famous. And I think that like people are very, they don't know what's going on. But a lot of these artists, they aren't actually even rich. These companies, these corporations own them. They've sold their soul to these companies. And they actually don't have money. That's actually the label's money, for real. So it's like, I definitely feel like if I'm good enough to be offered to be signed, I'm definitely good enough to make it as an independent artist. And if you look, all the real music is coming from the independent artists now. And if you look, the independent artist thing is booming. They actually don't want us to know that the record labels aren't even making as much money as they used to, because of all of us independent artists now. We're coming out here and realize that we could do this for ourselves. For example, do you remember that group TLC? It was an older group in the 90s. So they made $10 million off of that album, Crazy, Sexy, Cool. That was like their greatest album, bro. It had waterfalls on it, right? You know how much they made each? They made $100,000 and they sold 10 million copies of that album. So that just shows you like what these labels are doing to artists. They're exploiting us for our divine gifts. So yeah, I really ain't even in the loop of what all the new music is, because I realized how it was affecting my spirit and my daily life. So I had to detach from listening to it.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I think I feel the same way in a lot of ways. Is like, I don't know so much like anymore, like, because I've been disconnected from it. But like, when you do catch it and you hear it, it's often, hypersexualized, all about, hookup culture, all about, drugs, alcohol, party, all the pills that there are now that people are doing, right? So it's like, it's almost like a commercial for Big Pharma is what it sounds like sometimes, right? Which, I mean, they do control the ads, so it would make sense.
I actually started coming into my spiritual awareness around the time that COVID happened. That's actually what blasted me into my like awakening. And as I started fasting last year, doing like fruit fasts, I started getting a lot of downloads.
Speaking of fasting, fruits, and transformation, that brings you to the sponsor of today's podcast, Purium. And this podcast is all about healing and transformation. This is the Transformation Podcast, partnered with the Transformation Company. Many people are looking for true transformation in their life, and that's what the ultimate lifestyle transformation is. You can fast to start out. You can fast during it. You can do intermittent fasting. You could also be hyper nourished, detox from glyphosate, and get everything you need in a quick, convenient way that's affordable. And this also is unbelievable in cases of emergencies, in cases of places where you cannot get food and you need access to food, because this food lasts for 2 years and it has zero preservatives, zero additives, 100% organic, tested multiple times, third party, to make sure it's clean, no chemicals, no heavy metals, no toxins, and it maintains 98% of the living enzymes. Compare that to any food that you could find at your local supermarket, or even food that's in canned, or food that's typical seen as prep food. This blows anything out of the water. And if you use the code today with empathy with the code for this podcast, you're going to get $150 off or more on your ultimate lifestyle transformation. So this is incredible. Share this to anyone that may need this, and the link will be down below for any of my listeners. So definitely take a look at that.
About not being from this planet, like downloads of being from another constellation. And I actually had beings that started coming to me. And as I started like having dreams about past life incarnations and things, I started being directed to this constellation called the Lyra constellation. And I know that most people are going to think that this is crazy or taboo, but you know, how they spoke about these beings, they were cat-like beings, and they were geniuses in genetics. And as they started evolving, they evolved into humanoid beings. And a lot of them had white hair like mine. And I went white haired at like 22. So I started calling myself, I used to be Wavy Spice 01 was my music name. And I changed it to Lyra Vega because in Greek mythology, it was Orpheus's handheld harp. It was a lyre, and it played music so beautiful that it moved the gods. And I was like, there's a reason why I was drawn to this. You know, it just kept coming up until finally I started like acknowledging it, opened myself up to it. And so, yeah. And when I stepped into that name, like, my entire reality changed. Like, even just how I felt about my music, and like, because I used to be so afraid to just like share myself. Like, I even almost didn't pursue music because of my fear of being seen. So stepping into that gave me so much personal power. And I mean, you know, it's a powerful name for real. Like, I'm venerating my ancestors. I'm venerating, you know, my past incarnations. Like, the fact that I'm remembering all of these things, like, that's powerful.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And I can definitely relate big time to having a fear of being seen, for sure. Like, if you go back, way back-ish to the first video that I made, you know, definitely shy, introverted, you know, scared of being seen, scared of what people are going to say, you know, how are people going to accept me, all these sort of things. Like, I grew up with a lot of insecurities and a lot of fear. I was born with, I guess, kind of like a lazy eye. My eye was facing the wrong direction, you know, and that caused a lot of insecurity for a long time. Until I got that fixed, to be honest. That caused a lot of insecurity, and I didn't want to be seen. And even when I suffered with an autoimmune disease, even when I didn't share it to nobody, not even my parents. Even when I was diagnosed, I kept it like a secret because I was afraid, you know, what are people going to say? Like, fear of being seen as weak. Right? All these different fears. And then even when I felt better and I overcame it over years, I was still afraid to even share, you know? for all kinds of reasons, and I definitely relate, of just being seen and all the things, and maybe we could wrap this up with sharing a little bit about your healing journey, maybe a little bit more, maybe some of the things that you experienced, because a lot of stories on this podcast, if you go, are really, really, from health related, from traumas to mental health to, for autoimmune, cancer, diabetes, all kinds of incredible stories like that. And so, yeah, I think people might be fascinated to hear as well. And even I think you'd love to hear some of those other stories as well from people that are related to that.
Sure.
Yes, if you want to, because even my best friend, who's been on the podcast 3 times, her biggest story is about mental health. She was on 5 medications. Like she was, losing herself, and now has risen up to be like one of the most powerful women I know in my entire life, and like is helping thousands and thousands of people like heal, like starting from struggling from mental health. Yeah. So if you want to share a little bit about that.
For sure. Well, first off, I want to say I'm really proud of you for pushing through the indoctrination we've been taught about, healing yourself. And you literally healed your autoimmune disease, something that Western medicine tells you that you can't heal. And, part of my healing journey has a little bit to do with that too. Well, first off, the thing with being seen, that came from my mom. And I think that she always had like the longing and the passion for music too. And I think that like the trauma she went through, never being accepted or supported, she never explored that. So when I would come to her and I would, play guitar and, try to sing her a song I wrote, she would always shoo me away. So that really made me very self-conscious about my music. It made me feel like, oh, I'm not worthy of, having a music career. But as I started healing my trauma, I realized that a huge part of the not wanting to be seen, it came from my mom. And, she went through a lot of trauma. And I believe that she had a longing and passion for music that she never explored because of how she felt about herself and her upbringing. So when I would try to come to her, play guitar and sing, songs that I wrote, she would always shun me. And it gave me like these ideals about myself that weren't true. And I carried those into my adult life. And, I almost gave up on music. And then, I had gotten into a car wreck that caused I broke both my legs. And, they said that I paralyzed my arm and I would never move it again. But as I started coming into a higher awareness, I started doing visualization and meditations, sun gazing. And now I'm getting a full return on my arm. And, that's powerful because, I'm doing something, again, just like you did, that the mainstream Western medicine tells us that we can't do. So it shows you that we're way more miraculous than just these physical bodies. So I realized like everything that I overcame, I literally almost died in that car wreck. And there's a reason why I lived, because I am supposed to be using my gift to help the world and to heal myself as well. So, every time I'm writing a song or something, like I'm gaining more healing through my music and also through my spoken words. So this has been a powerful journey, and I'm going to share it with others who are going through similar things.
Yeah, I love that. And there's so much relatability, not only to probably people listening, and that are going to resonate for sure, anyone that's experienced something like that, but definitely for myself too. Like, I mean, I feel like I was just living the standard, traditional, typical American lifestyle, just going with the flow, doing what I, whatever I wanted or whatever, living the lifestyle that a typical American lives in. I almost died. From the autoimmune disease and the medication and all that sort of stuff. I was, on my deathbed, and at 29, which is like, I was like, this is ridiculous. Right. And, staying alive and healing gave me a renewed purpose as well, and that's also what I felt is like, yeah, like everything that you said, I felt like the same kind of thing, because I was not thinking about, I did not care about health. I did not care about, healing. I didn't care about those things. I didn't see it as important or valuable. And I think I'm grateful. Like sometimes you have like whatever you go through, but I'm so grateful for all of those moments because I'm grateful I learned young. So I have the ability to learn, because some people learn those lessons late. And sometimes it's too late. It's hard to recover. Like my mom was on 25 medications when I started to help her. Now she's off of almost 20 of them.
And that's beautiful.
Like that's her lifestyle, and my mom, the trauma, from that is also what I had to learn and had to uncover and I had to heal from as well, is some of the stuff from my mom. Like, there's this one analogy that I use that's really simple, or not, well, kind of simple-ish, that I say sometimes that kind of explains it, which some people go through. So my parents split up when I was 2, right? And my dad took care of us because my mom was not in good enough situation, which is very rare in California for the dad to get the custody of the kids. And so that was the situation. And we had step parents, right? My dad, he got remarried, or had girlfriends, right? And oftentimes they're abusive, right? Even if it's not physical, it's often verbal, right? Because they're not your own kids, so you treat your kids differently, so there's stuff like that, right? But you ever see the movie South Park? South Park. Jurassic Park. I don't know why I said South Park. You ever see Jurassic Park, the first one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the scene where the kids are in the car, right? And they're in the vehicle and the T-Rex is about to break out, right? Like the first time where they're in the rain and the T-Rex is going to break out and the kids almost die, right? The lawyer at one point that's in the car with the kids, he leaves. He sees what's happening with the dinosaur and he's like, I'm out. And he runs to the bathroom. He gets eaten later, right? And the kids are like traumatized in this moment, right? The kids are like, what the hell? Like, how are you going to leave us? You're leaving us. Like, there's a huge ass dinosaur outside. Like, what are you doing, right? And then, they get over the cliff and then, things happen, right? The dinosaur almost kills them. And then they're on the ground, right? And the guy is like, the main character is like, okay, I'm going to go get Timmy. He's in the tree. I'm going to go get Timmy right now. And the girl's like freaking out. She's saying, he left us. He left us. She's so traumatized by the fact that he left her in the moment of this terrible time that she almost went over a cliff, almost got stepped on, almost got eaten, right? All these things.
There we go.
All right, I'll wrap this up. So she almost, got killed, but the girl was worried about the fact that she was left alone. That was the issue. And I think that's the issue that I had to deal with. And that some people have to deal with when their parents leave, it's all the things that happened as a result of the leaving, right? I don't have the anger or hatred that much towards the new people that came into the life. The resentment was held towards the person that left me in that situation. My mom, in that situation, right? That I had to work on. And I think that's what a lot of people or kids experience too. And that's where like the abandonment issues and all the, that kind of stuff happens, right? And stems from, right? And I just find that scene and that to be so perfect. It explains it so well, so simply, because you would think she'd be so scared. Oh, I'm scared of the T-Rex. I don't want to go out there. I'm scared of dinosaurs. She's not worried about that. She's so traumatized that the adult left the situation, right? Left the kids in that situation was more the trauma part. And so your experience and your mom sharing what she shared to you and saying, oh, like maybe being dismissive of the music, right? And having those negative fears, like, are other people going to think the same thing? You know what I mean? Like, and those kind of fears set in. But I can definitely relate, and I just want to share that. I haven't shared that before quite like that on the podcast, but it made me think of that scene. But anyways, want to wrap this up. We can, if you want to share any last thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being transparent and sharing, like being vulnerable. The last thing that I do want to share is that, yeah, at some point we have to, and this is a part of why I'm doing the music, is at some point, all the people who have caused us trauma, we have to stop replaying that. Like, I've learned that to stop replaying that trauma and, holding on to it and releasing it. And there's actually a new song that I'm doing. It's called Generational Cycles. And it's talking about my mom pretty much, and how I'm not her, and I'm not going to carry on her behaviors or her ideals. And I'm actually going to be the one that's breaking the generational cycles. And that is going to be on the new album that's coming out in a few months. And it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be definitely challenging the mainstream narrative. And it's called Divine Darkness, Shadow Work. So there's going to be like some stuff on there that's very deep, and that's, me taking steps at integrating my shadow self, because they taught us to suppress one of the most divine parts of ourselves. You're not a whole person if you're rejecting the shadow parts of yourself. Like, that is still an integral part of who we are. So, accepting all parts of yourselves, because a lot of our parents didn't have the courage to do that. So we're the ones that are doing that. And there's so much power in that. So, yeah, keep a lookout for the new album coming.
Also, our parents didn't have the knowledge, or they didn't have the support, the access, you know what I mean? Like, to get to this information, to help heal us. Like, man, before, like, I don't know if I would have been able to do it without the support, that I've had, the community, the access to people like you, like, literally, like, I could have went to school, could have went back to school, maybe got a degree, maybe became a doctor or something like that. But like, these last 5 years of the podcast, talking to people like you and other people, that's way more valuable, way more information, way more knowledge. This is like my school. This is like my education. This is where I learn the most, probably, is like learning from people and your stories and how to overcome, and just that's more valuable than any school that I know, to be honest. So I appreciate you so much, and I can't wait to learn more. I can't wait to, I'll put information on the album drop. I'll share with you more about like what music could be added, because I'm thinking like your music could be added, as an intro to highlight it, and just little things like that, and
for sure. I appreciate
talking about it. Yeah, for sure. And opening future collaboration as well, because that's, like you said, that's the key, right? All right, so thank you so much. Well, I'm going to wrap this up, and definitely subscribe if you're not subscribed, and leave a review on the Empathy Podcast if you haven't. The website, theempathypodcast.com, is also available, and so you could find everything there as well. All right, so thank you all. See you guys soon. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast. Please, please, please make sure that you guys share this with anyone that you think will find this interesting, and also make sure that you guys are subscribed, because I can see a lot of you guys are listening, but you aren't subscribed.